Welcome to another episode of the Leo Climaco Podcast. Today's podcast I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. This podcast is going to be very near and dear to my heart. It's with the one, the only, the beautiful Daniela Climaco, my wife, the mother of my children, my business partner, and my best friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I am so happy that we finally decided to do this. Thank you for being here. And let's get to it.
All right. I'm excited to be here.
All right. For those who don't know you,
Yes.
share a little bit about who you are
Okay.
and your background and what you do.
This is the Leo Climaco Podcast.
So business-wise, I'm a board-certified licensed behavior analyst. I have been doing that for 13 years. I, with my husband, Leo Climaco, own Behaviors of NYC and Behaviors of Florida. It is an APA, which is Applied Behavior Analysis therapy agency for children with autism. We serve children ages 3 through 25 right now, which is very exciting for us. We have about 13 clients. They're all doing awesome. It's very fulfilling. And we've been doing that for about 7-8 years now.
Almost 7 years, yeah.
And we have 2 beautiful children. So that's, my other fulfilling life role that we have here in beautiful Pompano, Florida. And that's a little bit about me.
How did you get into behavior therapy? How did that come to be for you?
It's a very funny story. I actually thought that I was going to be a lawyer for a very long time.
So did I.
That was my path.
For a very long
I
time.
thought that was what I was going to do. In high school, I did, my Model UN. I did, all of that fun stuff. And I went to Binghamton University, took all my political science classes.
That's upstate, right?
Upstate New York. Political science classes, and hated it very, very much. It was not for me. I love the acting part of it. I wanted to act in law and not learn anything about being a lawyer.
Right.
So I luckily found a professor in psychology who I loved, and I followed her path. And that was, my mentor. And I had to choose between cognitive psychology, perceptive psychology, or child psychology. And I was like, all right, cool. I like children. Why not? And little did I know it was an institute for child development and children with autism. I had no idea what that meant. But I went for it and fell in love.
What year was this?
Wow, what year was this? 2007, I want to say.
It was totally meant to be.
Totally meant to be.
Totally meant to be.
I met a little boy, severe autism.
Forgot his name. What was his name? Ryan.
And we made a connection. What song did he love? Do you remember?
It was, it's a Led Zeppelin song.
Okay.
I think it's called Valhalla. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That one. Yeah, and he played it every day, and we made a connection. One day I walked into the classroom, and he stopped his music, and that's how I knew we were in love.
Instant connection. I remember you calling me, and the day you met Ryan, and you legitimately called me, and you said, I think I'm changing professions. I think I'm going a different route.
Yeah.
And you explained the whole thing to me, how you met this little boy, how you guys connected, and how you did not want to be a lawyer anymore.
Oh, God,
And you completely shifted your major, and you became a psychologist.
Yeah, and everyone that worked at the Institute was like, this is for you. This is what you're going to do. And And then I followed the path. I just did the whole program. I switched over to ABA psychology, kept going from there, and finished with Binghamton. Came back and moved over and started at Columbia.
What was your major in Binghamton? What did you?
ABA psychology.
That was your major.
That
ABA
was a major. Yeah, ABA psychology.
And then your master's?
My master's was in intellectual disabilities and autism, because I wanted to kind of broaden the scope, make sure that I was fully well-rounded with my teaching abilities.
I was going to say, aren't you also a special needs teacher?
So I am. I am certified in grades K through 6. So I did that through Columbia, and then I went and got my postmaster's through FIT in Florida, remotely. And that's how.
What a coincidence, right?
Right? And then now we're
That's
in Florida.
before we ever thought of moving to Florida.
Yeah, I recommend it highly. Went and got my BCBA and got that in 2013, I want to say.
What does that mean exactly to get your BCBA?
So you have to.
Because it's kind of like being a lawyer.
Oh,
it's very
just
similar.
Like taking the bar.
It's very similar.
Really, really good point.
Yeah.
It's just as rigorous.
It's funny how you went a different way, but very similar.
For sure.
And you guys work together.
Yeah.
You work with lawyers.
Oh, and now,
right?
Yes. Funny.
Yes.
Very
funny.
Yes. I work really closely with lawyers now. That's so funny that you say that. It's so true. So it's lots and lots and lots of schooling, lots and lots of hours, application of ABA. So what is ABA? It's a great question.
You have a license, right? Is that what it is?
I have a license. So you have to become board certified first.
Right.
So it's 1,500 hours of direct work with your client.
Right.
And then you sit for an exam. You sit for a board exam, where you have to
kind of like the bar. It's very similar. Yeah.
Very, very similar.
Yeah.
It's all application. It's all what would you do in different scenarios.
Right.
So once you pass that, yes, depending on the state, we're in New York, you need a license. Florida's working on that, which it needs. So I'm licensed in the state of New York.
Where did you want this license to take you? When you first got it, when you first obtained it, what was your intent to use it as?
That's a great question. So what was I using it as in the beginning? Where I was at the time, I was a director for enrichment classes. What that meant was, and I really was passionate about that at the time. Because
yeah, you really were. And you were really good at it too.
There's not an application, there's not a place for children with autism to have fun, to be involved, to be a kid. There's so much, studying and how to wash your hands and be better at school and learn how to speak and how to be quote unquote up to par.
Right.
But there's never really this room to be a kid, to play soccer, to listen to music, to play music, to do art, to go to the museum, to go on field trips. That was so much fun. To explore, and that's what we did.
Right.
So I ran a camp where we were able to do that. We were city explorers. We got on the subway. We would go all around New York City. So really giving them the experience to be a kid.
Of a regular kid, right.
And not only that, for the parents. So we did weekend classes.
That's right.
The idea of being a soccer mom, really giving that to the family. Because especially now as a mom, I love doing that with my kids.
Right.
Like, Luke goes
We got to
to
build that
soccer.
here in
Yeah,
Richmond. We got to do that.
Richmond was huge. It
Yeah,
was
we
huge
got to build that
because
here.
It gives
Huge.
an empowerment to the family that, like, I go to soccer with my kids. My kid does that, just like your kid.
Right.
So that's where I was at the time. But then, it was time for me to, as I just mentioned, take my education and my license to the next level. So
I wanna real quickly break down exactly what it means to be a BCBA. What is a board certified behavior analyst? What can you do with this?
Sure.
What does that entail?
A lot. So encompasses a lot. What can I do? Starting from the beginning, we assess a child. We look at where the child is, what their skills are, what their deficits are, there are numerous assessments that can be done.
Okay.
Based on the child's level, we choose what is most appropriate to see where they are.
Would you mean like there's a physical assessment, a reading one, and something like that?
There's assessments called, for example, like the VV map or the Vineland, which the AFLs or the ABLs. So what I would use for a 14-year-old, I wouldn't use for a 7-year-old.
Got it.
What I would use for someone who was verbal, I wouldn't use for someone who's nonverbal.
Makes sense.
Someone who is, able to do daily living skills versus someone who is still learning how to do basic functioning, needing help with brushing their teeth and washing their hands. And it really depends on the child. So you go in learning the child and then deciding on what assessment is most appropriate.
Okay.
So that's the basic.
Got it.
From
How
there,
long are these assessments?
Again, depending on the child.
Yeah.
Usually you go in starting about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Spending time with the child really looks like play.
Right.
You don't want to put too much pressure.
You're observing, interacting.
Right, you're observing, you're interacting, you're kind of seeing where they are. What are they doing? Really natural. You just kind of want to see what their skills are.
Right.
I kind of ask them, can you do this for me? Basic things. Can you come sit with me? Let's read a book together. You can get a lot of skills there. Do they listen? Can they sit with you?
Right.
Can they make that eye contact? That parallel play, that interaction, because autism is really a social skill deficit. So just
a social skill deficit.
Yeah, it's really.
I like how you put that.
Yeah, it's really just that basic interaction. You can get a lot from asking a very simple direction. So really, I don't come in with a book. I don't come in,
Right.
I come in very naturally.
As a friend.
Yeah.
Come into play.
Yeah, I come in to play, and I tell the parent the same thing. I come in, it looks like play. Don't be alarmed.
Right.
It's gonna look like a free-for-all. I don't want it to be. I don't really want the child to know what I'm doing.
Right.
Because you don't want them to change.
Right. You want to catch them in their natural habitat.
Yes,
right.
Because you can't really assess what's happening if they are performing. You don't want a performance.
Right.
You want to really see what they're able
Who they
to
really
do
are.
exactly,
Right.
or not able to do. There's a whole interview with the parents. You get the parent's point of view.
Okay.
That's
So you're getting the
usually-
full picture.
You're getting a full scope.
Yeah.
So it's a start. So you start there. You get the basics.
You get the assessment done.
You get the assessment done.
What do you do next?
You build goals from there. So you start with.
So you basically write a whole report,
You
basically,
write a whole
right?
plan.
Yeah.
You create program goals. If there are maladaptive behaviors, which can be anything from severe behaviors, could be self-injurious, can be anything from throwing items, biting, hitting, scratching, hitting themselves. There's a range.
What kind of training is there for therapists to be able to handle these situations?
So what I have chosen, the training that I go through is called CPI, which is Crisis Prevention Intervention. And that's what we use at Behaviors. And that is a de-escalation, which is why I like it, because it really teaches you everything that you can do to de-escalate the situation before you put your hands on the child.
Okay.
Because you have to think of the situation. The child, once they're in a heightened space, once they're in this meltdown, there's no consciousness there.
Right.
So if you're going to go in and put your hands on them, they are
Gonna get aggressive and defensive.
completely.
Yeah. Naturally, right? It's
Naturally.
instinctive.
So if you're able to kind of calm down, usually you can kind of get them to come to your level.
Makes sense.
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And then there are certain holds that you can do that also help calm down. There's a whole, there's a whole psychology behind that as well.
Right. While you staying calm as well. Like,
While
right.
you
Yeah.
stay calm.
Yeah. If you panic, everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So there's a whole training, a way to talk them through.
Very important.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of talking yourself through it while you're talking
Right.
them through it as well, because everyone is heightened.
Right.
There's also a way once.
And you're the specialist,
Yes.
right? So you gotta remain calm.
Have to remain calm. And even afterwards, there's a whole protocol on how to take a break, to give yourself a break, to give the child a break, to offer everyone water.
Give me a scenario where you were working and you had to implement CPI, and how did it go?
Wow, one scenario, okay. I can give you several. So there was a time that I was working at a clinic, and there was a child that was severely aggressive, and there was a team of us because that's how aggressive he was.
Wow.
I was the lead, so I was the one that was directing, how to speak to him, when to speak to him,
Right.
when to have hands on.
You were the negotiator.
Okay. Yes, I was.
You were the negotiator.
Yeah, it was.
What did you have to do exactly? He got aggressive. He was hitting. He was kicking. What was he doing?
Yes, he was lunging at us. He was a big boy. He was 16, and he was coming at us. So there was 5 of us. We happened to all be women. So it was a full takedown. What does that mean?
Arms, legs.
Arms, exactly.
Yeah, I can picture it. Full arms, legs, and take him down.
Head. Gotta be careful.
Of course, the head. You can hit the head. Concussion, yeah.
Pillows. So you have everything in the room.
Got it.
You have a pillow to make sure that when he's on the floor, there's a pillow under his head.
Right.
Because you have to remember, it's safety.
Right.
What's the safest way?
You're not going to, like, the aim is not to harm. It's to de-escalate.
Right.
Yeah.
The child is literally in a state where there is no consciousness at that point.
Right.
He really...
It's also like a normal child, hysterical crying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no consciousness there.
Absolutely.
They're just in pure terror, pure panic mode, pure survival mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Now
exactly.
add autism to the mix.
Exactly. So it's interesting because you're actually taught to use less words. And I think that's something that we do with our kids, if you think about it. Because when you're in a state of panic, they're not hearing you.
Right.
So you don't want to continue to
ramble, right?
Give directions and say all these things, because then
Right.
everyone's just talking.
Right.
So it's really
It's,
trying to
hey,
find a
I'm
place.
here. Connect, you and me.
Yeah.
Hear my voice.
So we actually say, there's one person who's going to talk.
Makes sense.
And usually that person was me.
The negotiator.
But
That makes sense.
sometimes, if another person was by the head, I would give that person the permission to say, hey, like once we're on the floor and he was calm, he would say, like, get off of me, basically.
Right.
And we would say, your body isn't calm. You're not being safe.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let you go. So once he was able to acknowledge, once we saw that he came back and understood, like, okay, now I can be safe.
Right.
Then, okay, I'm going to let go of your legs. And if we saw that his legs weren't kicking and he was actually calm, cool. Now let go of your arms.
Step by step.
Step by step. Okay, hey, now you're free. Do you need some water? The staff would go take a break. Everyone takes a break because everyone's in a heightened state.
Yeah.
And that happened daily for quite some time.
Wow.
Yeah. So
These poor parents.
it's rough.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's rough. Yeah.
I think about our friend of the family who has 2 boys that are in a clinic,
Yeah.
and they are just very severe.
Yeah.
Very, very severe.
Yeah.
How do you know that cutoff from he's okay to live at home or he's not okay to live at home anymore?
It's a great question.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's that cutoff of danger, of security, of no progress can be made here?
Right.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately.
There's a lot. The biggest thing that I always say is safety. We have that. We have that in behaviors. We have some families that have older, aggressive children, 18, 21,
Yeah.
that have come to me with that question. And the answer is safety. Can you physically handle your own child? Are you safe?
Is he safe?
Is he safe?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then you have to make that decision. You
Right.
have to make the decision of, okay, it can go 2 routes. Do you want to have live-in help?
I was going to ask you, is there a half step?
There is. Do you want help? Do you want someone to come in?
I can see that being a solution for most.
Possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. Or then you send your child to a residential facility,
Right.
which is an option. But it's a very, very hard conversation and a hard choice to have.
Oh, extremely.
Because you're sending your baby, you're sending
Yeah.
your child
Yeah.
away.
Away from you, no longer in your care, no longer in your control, no longer in your environment. Now they're in a clinic, it's sterile, there's
And
doctors
they may
and
not
nurses.
understand why
Yeah,
that's happening.
Right.
Why am I not home? Why am I not with mom?
right.
And they may never understand that. And that's a whole nother level for the parent to grieve
Right.
and deal with. And I've had some very, very hard conversations with parents. And we've actually currently saved a child from going to a residential facility because he was close. It was a recommendation that was made for him.
By a doctor?
No, by a other therapy agency
Okay.
that wasn't able to
Deal
make
with him.
progress with him. And luckily, with parent training, with staff that we were able to implement, he's making good progress, and he's at home. But it's
That's great.
Really,
Congrats.
Thank you. It's really our staff. It's really, it's really huge.
But you're also an awesome leader.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's really, it's the choice of staff. It's the BCBAs that we choose. It's that structure that we put in place. But it's that parent training piece that really is huge. That sometimes is missing. That parents don't really may not find the value in. B, may not accept, or C, unfortunately not follow through with. And then that's a whole nother conversation, because then it gets to the point where if you're not accepting our help, then you're
jeopardizing everything.
Kinda, yeah.
Have you ever thought about starting a parents counseling group?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because one of our BCBAs actually just reached out to me about doing some kind of group training.
For the parents?
For the parents.
Do they need training, or do they need more emotional support?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's really, it could just be putting it out there, saying, hey, these are the things that are available to you, and kind of seeing what catches.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing what they're interested in, because they may not even know that that's an option for them.
Right.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of pressure on the parents.
It is.
And it's a lot of seclusion, and it's a lot of
accepting.
It's a lot of accepting or not accepting, or
right.
Loneliness, or unfortunately embarrassment.
That's right.
There's a lot of grief in special needs. There's a lot of parents that I meet that I didn't realize go to therapy because they're grieving the child that they didn't have.
Right.
The child that they, that normal, quote unquote, normal child.
The child they'll never be, right?
Correct. But there's beauty in that too.
For sure.
That they grieved, that they went to therapy, and they've accepted.
Sure. Yeah.
And now they can support their child.
And that doesn't mean they don't love their child.
No, not
it just
at all.
means that they have to deal with this to be able to fully be there for their child, to really accept who they are.
I think if anything, they love their child more that way.
100%. They're more open.
Because they're more open, they're more accepting.
Yeah.
They have space now to do the work.
Right.
To get their child to therapy.
Right.
And that's how the child gets to us. They've moved past okay, there's an issue here, and now I can go and get the
and
speech,
resolve it. Right.
The occupational therapy, the physical therapy, the
ABA,
all the needs.
Yeah.
And kids make huge progress, huge. And luckily, we're able to. We have clients that have been with us 4 years since the very beginning. We've had clients that 7 years now that just are with us, and we're able to support them and support their families, and it's beautiful.
Okay, let's take a shift.
Okay.
I want to get a little political, maybe some tinfoil hat.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I want your opinion about what is autism.
What is autism? Okay.
Why is autism?
Okay.
And why do these numbers keep getting lower and lower every fucking year?
Okay. And this is my personal opinion.
Your
right?
personal opinion. Because there are nothing to go based off, right? There's a lot of studies, a lot of this, but there's no concrete answer.
There isn't, correct. What is my take on it? Okay. These are great questions.
Getting you out there, girl.
Yeah. So I think that I'm going to put it out there.
Put it out there.
I do not believe it's vaccines.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think that it may not be 100% vaccines, but they could be in the mix for some kids?
No.
Okay, tell me why.
I think it's genetics.
You think it's genetics?
I think it's genetics.
Okay, explain to me how.
I believe that it has to do with some form of the Y chromosome, a broken chromosome.
Okay.
Why do I believe this? Because especially now having 2 children, being in the field, seeing my kids, seeing the development.
Seeing other kids.
Seeing other kids. I've been in the field for 13 years at this point. You can see it right away if there's a deficit.
How soon? What's right away? 3 months of birth? 6 months? 9 months? How soon?
I mean, every child develops at their own pace.
I'm going to challenge you a second.
Sure.
Because I've seen many cases where kids were fine until
they regressed,
and then they regressed. What happens there? What is that?
That's a great question. That is part of autism. So if you look at the DSM-5, if you look at...
What's the DSM-5?
The DSM-5 is the book of the diagnosis. So that's where all the psychological diagnoses are. That's what tells you what is autism.
It's a medical book.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's where you will find all the different
diagnoses,
schizophrenia and
got all the special needs.
Correct.
It's called DS5.
The DSM-5.
DSM-5.
We're up to 5 now.
Can anybody buy this book?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Online. Yep.
Got
Completely.
it.
That is where you open it up, and if you have check, you have autism.
So it's kind of like a WebMD where people go and check their symptoms.
Sure. But
Got it.
It's that's this is what it is.
So go deeper into that. How is that part of autism? The regression is part of autism?
It can be, yes. There is a part
what
that
triggers
says
the rejection, the regression?
It could just be part of the non-development. So as the child grows, as opposed to the development, there becomes a non-development. There becomes a regression. So there's Williams syndrome, that's also what happens. There becomes a regression. It's just part of the diagnosis. So what is autism?
Just 1 second.
Sure.
But you're still saying, even in that scenario, you can still see the signs earlier. You as a professional.
I can't say in every single scenario, yes.
Okay.
Like that's it.
Right. I understand.
It's.
I understand.
I don't want people to come at me and be like, "Oh my God, you should have seen it, or you couldn't have seen it." Or,
right. Right. No, I understand what you're saying.
There's always
an exception.
Chance.
Right.
However, I mean, children are social beings. Like at birth, they want to make that connection. There's eye contact.
And like you said, it's a social disorder.
It's a social disorder.
Got it.
So, like babies at birth, there are people who go to hospitals to hold babies. There's that connection.
Is that like a therapy thing?
No, there's I don't know what it's called necessarily, but there are a lot of hospitals that have people volunteer to come hold babies that don't have families. It's just if they're
got it.
Yeah, if they don't have families or
they're being adopted or whatever.
Yeah, for whatever reason they don't have families that are there for them. There are people who volunteer to hold babies because they need that
connection, that touch. Yeah,
that touch. So with that being said, you can see that they're such social beings. They need that connection.
And you can, so what you're saying is you can see less of that.
Correct. So, for example, at such a young age, you can see children playing, wanting you to notice them, wanting you to see, come play with me, or look at what I made, or, you know, that smile in the morning, that notice, oh, the door opened, you know, there's you know, my parent, or there's that person. It's that connection, it's that noticing. You can tell at a very young age if that child has not made that connection with you.
Got it.
So for a novel parent, you may not notice those things.
Right.
But what gets me the most, and you know, the politics part of where you're going with this, the tinfoil hat, is what gets me is when you're at the point where you're getting these shots, you can already see the deficit. So to say that one causes the other is not necessarily fair, because the issue is that at the age that you're getting the shot is at the age where these children are making these huge leaps at development that they're not making. So, like, for example, Oliver, our 2-year-old, he makes these huge leaps every day.
Huge.
In his language, in his
understanding, in his
speech,
movement,
understanding, and he is such a social being.
Yes.
And he wants to show, and he comes to us, and he will, you know, my ball, my phone, my this, my that.
Yeah.
We don't ask for it.
Right.
He comes to us. He wants that connection. I was telling you this morning, he went to the security guard by himself and asked for a fist bump.
Yes, so
like,
cute.
He came with that on his own, understanding to make that social connection.
It's beautiful. Let me stop you right there 1 second, please. I want to challenge you again, okay?
Go for it.
I can see what you're saying with it being genetics and a broken Y chromosome.
Go ahead.
Is there a possibility that vaccines can trigger this genetic mutation more?
Everything's a possibility, right?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Could it possibly be unlocking things?
Wow, that's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
I believe in science. I do. I believe in science. I believe in the vaccine. I believe it. I gave it to my children. I wholeheartedly believe in science. I do. I don't believe in the correlation. There isn't enough evidence. I've asked many, many doctors. I've asked, you know, what if we break it up? Because the MMR, which is the vaccine that we're discussing,
right,
it's
3-in-1, right?
It's 3-in-1.
Yeah.
It can be given as
Separately.
3 separate dosages. Again, not enough evidence that will make a difference, but it can be a choice.
Right. To your point, I interviewed Camille a couple weeks ago, and her son was never vaccinated and has autism.
Correct. It's hard to say because, again, the science does not show that there is a correlation. And
just a coincidence.
Yeah, it can be. And why is it a coincidence? Again, because of the age they give the vaccine. And because of the age that you see these leaps and bounds in development that you don't see in a child with autism.
Right.
So when you put those two children together, that's when you see that deficit. And then when you put that vaccine in the mix, it's so easy to say it was the vaccine.
Yeah.
So, you know, but again, as a parent, do you want to blame something
Or do you want a solution?
Do you want a solution? Do you want to say it's because of this? Again, I would never say to another parent, like, they're right or wrong, but I, again, would never, as my own personal opinion, is that it's not correlated.
What is your opinion on stem cells? Have you heard?
I have,
There's many parents taking their children to Costa Rica, to Panama, to do stem cell therapy on their kids, and they're seeing huge progress.
The truth is I don't know enough. I do have to do more research. I don't know. Do you know more about it? Because I don't know enough, to be honest. I don't know exactly what they're doing.
They are rewiring the brain.
Interesting.
They're introducing stem cells to the brain to make connections that are not there. They're basically creating pathways basically that's what autism is, right? Their brain is wired differently than ours. So these stem cells are helping their brains rewire more like ours.
So interesting.
It's connecting pathways that are not currently connected in their brain.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I'll look into more studies because I don't know enough, to be honest.
It's very interesting where we are with science and what's happening, yeah.
I mean, listen, the truth is that I have heard of some really, really, really interesting things that have been done for years. That some of them are very scary, that I don't agree with. A lot that work or don't work. And what's hard to say is, what is it that's working? Because they're doing all of the things at the same time.
Right.
There's no control.
Right.
There's no way to say...
There's no way to A/B test.
Yeah. There's no way to say that worked or this worked. There's gluten-free, casein-free diets. Casein is dairy.
Okay.
Tons of parents say that the gut is correlated. Part of me doesn't disagree because maybe that triggers,
the mutation.
child. No, not a mutation necessarily, but
you know what I mean, like preservatives, like all the bull crap that we eat.
It could be the fact that maybe they don't feel good and they're not able to say I don't feel good and they're acting up.
Okay.
I'll take it there.
Got it.
But to say that causes autism or that's fixing the autism is a whole nother layer. That's really my point, if that makes sense.
Right.
That if you're, that's what gets me. It's really the idea of, is there a cure? Are you cured from autism? And I don't know if I fully believe that one can be cured. Because
Today,
so it's interesting. I went to FABA, the Florida ABA conference, and there is a woman who is diagnosed with autism. She is 21 at this point, fully high functioning. She's amazing. I forget her name. I'm blanking out right now. But she's incredible. She presented, and she is so in her truth that she has autism and talks about her troubles with dating and meeting people. And it just shows me, like, the idea of being cured is not necessarily a thing.
You don't think, though, that a mother of a child who has to be in a clinic for the rest of his life, and if they're able to do some stem cells to rewire their brain to make them at least not have to be in that home, to be a little bit more, you know what I mean, a little bit more functional.
100%. I think it's fantastic. But I think the desire or the idea that I'm going to cure my child is different than my child's going to function beautifully in society. That we're going to, like, that's what my dream for behaviors is not, hey, I'm going to cure my child. I'm going to cure your child. The dream is that we're going to take your child to their full potential, this child is going to be the best that they can be to whatever level that they can be.
It's beautiful.
It's because the idea of being cured takes away from that person's ability.
Right.
It kind of goes with, this kind of takes us in a kind of different route, but similarly, because it's talking about diagnoses. But a friend of mine who's living with depression, the idea that she said, she still has depression and she's living with it. It's the idea that you have something, but you can be fully functioning.
Right.
It's not necessarily that it's going to go away. You can't scrape the barrel clean necessarily.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does.
Just living to your full potential is the goal, in my opinion.
Let's change gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go into a little bit about you and me.
Okay. We're just like full circle here.
Let's change focus.
Let's do it.
How did we meet?
Oh my goodness, how did we meet? PS 150. Sunnyside, Queens. How did we meet? It's a good story. You should start with 29 years in America.
Oh my goodness.
That's a great start. How did we meet? Welcome to America.
Little old Leo came from Rio. That rhymed. Little old Leo came from Rio at 7 years old to meet Daniela.
Correct. Yeah. Which is funny. That's a great story to tell. So my mom came from England to Sunnyside, Queens.
Yeah, and my family came from Rio to Sunnyside, Queens, just to meet each other.
And I lived on 43rd Street, and you lived on 48th Street. One avenue over, Stillman and
43rd.
43rd.
Went to the same elementary school.
PS 150.
We met in the 5th grade.
Met in the 5th grade. And
we've been together for almost 19 years.
Huge crush on you. I had a huge crush on baby Leo.
And I couldn't stand you.
And,
I couldn't stand to look at you.
The feeling was not mutual.
Could not stand looking at you.
And
until I did.
Until, we had mutual friends forever. Yeah. We were in the same circle and we hung out. And that's really
and
how
then
it started.
18 years, one business, 2 kids later, and one move later. One state move later.
One state move later.
Here we are.
Two apartments in that same state.
Yes.
A home by the beach. God bless.
God bless.
And
Talk about our journey and our growth from who we were at 18 to today at 36.
Oh my goodness. Whew. You know what's interesting? I think about it all the time. When you are with someone for that long, it's funny because we were talking about it. My favorite word recently are seasons, the seasons of life. I really, truly believe that. Because as a teenager, you go through so much. And we were teenagers together.
Yes.
So, when you look back, the road was not linear because you go through your seasons.
Yeah.
You're a teenager.
It's bumpy, roller coaster.
It's bumpy because you're a teenager and you go through all these different changes in life. And then you're a young adult. And then you're a middle adult. And then, then there's, okay, now it's time to get married. Okay, now it's time to have kids. Wait, let's make a business. Okay, that's our first baby. Where does the business need to be before we have an actual baby?
Yeah.
So it's
how hard was this road?
How hard was this road?
Because everyone just looks at us and they see, they see the glamour.
Yeah,
they see how flashy we are, and us traveling,
definitely.
and us this, and our beautiful life, and our beautiful home, and our beautiful cars.
Yeah, it was.
But
a hard.
Let's shed some light on how hard it was for us to really get to where we are today.
I think there's so much beauty in how hard it was, because in every step, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But there is, there's that darkness, because you have to go through that hardship
Of the unknowns.
and also there's different seasons of each other.
Yeah.
I change, you change, and then sometimes we don't like the changes of each other at that point.
And you got pregnant twice. Those are huge hormonal changes.
Yes, pregnancy is very hard. There's lots of growth that needs to happen. There's lots of therapy that needs to take place.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for everyone to know how much therapy
We both do.
takes place.
Oh my goodness.
Which is important because I'm a therapist.
Right.
So it's like, I think that there's a lot of stigma in going to therapy, but like...
Lay out our therapy.
Lay out our therapy. Wow. So we go to therapy weekly. We have done couples therapy. We do.
What are our different types of therapies that we have?
Different types of therapy. So we have. So I see a psychologist, a cognitive psychologist. We have a spiritual healer. I see a psychiatrist.
Two therapists.
Two therapists.
A personal trainer.
Oh yeah, body. Got to work on the body.
Yep.
We have a personal trainer.
We have a tantra
We have
instructor.
A tantra healer.
A tantra healer.
Yep. We're
We do a
really
lot.
working on
We do a lot.
well-rounded
Yes.
beings, and separately and together.
And it took a lot for us to get here today.
Yeah. A lot of deciding to grow.
Yeah.
Deciding
To grow together.
go together.
Yeah.
Grow as individuals. Understanding who we are, who we want to be together. But the road was bumpy.
Very.
Yeah, the road was bumpy.
Where do you see yourself for the next 5 years?
Where do I see myself in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Where do you see us, ourselves, our family, our company?
So company-wise, I see us having a school in Florida and an agency in Florida. I definitely see that being open. I do see us in a house, but I don't know how I'm leaving the beach. So to be determined.
20 Compass Isles, I'm coming for you. Whoever lives in 20 Compass Isles, I'm coming for you. Give me my house. Hope you know that.
And I, both of our boys in North Broward. And I see our unity. I just see, we started working out together as a couple. And I think that's an awesome move that we made. And I
Do you know where I see us?
Sure.
I see us being a powerhouse couple counseling duo.
Okay.
And just helping a ton of people in so many ways.
Yeah.
In the autism world, in marriage world, in life and body and mind.
Yeah. I think that we've been through a lot separately, together.
Yeah.
I mean, personal traumas, personal growth, personal experiences.
Yeah.
Through everything, life and business and body. And like you said, all of those, your 4 pillars that you always mention. That
Body being balanced in business.
There you go.
It's actually coming out on IG today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Check it out. That I think that there's so much, I agree with you. I think there's so much room still to grow.
Yeah.
And there's room for people to grow with us. for us to show them there's always the other side.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of life. I think, something that I take away from our path is through the darkness, there's always the light on the other side. And if you're willing to put in the work, and if you're willing to go through the therapy, and if you're willing to feel your feelings and
stand in your truth,
and, go through it and, make your choice to live and actually live your life.
And die and be reborn and recreate yourself.
There's a lot of beauty in life and what it has to offer. And I think that's, where we stand now. And I think that's how we're able to be where we are now.
Yeah.
Because we've gone through the trials and tribulations, and each time we come out stronger.
Yes.
And
yes, we do, Daniela. Yes, we do.
And then that way, each step, each time, there's something new that's offered, and there's something more that's given.
Yeah.
And there's just more growth each path.
It's beautiful. I'm going to ask you now my 10 rapid fire questions. Okay? To get to know you a little bit more. Okay?
Okay.
What's your favorite book?
Wow, what's my favorite book? I don't know if I have one. That's a hard one for me.
I can think of a few that you like.
Okay. Please.
Nonfiction. Mm-hmm. You loved.
50 Shades of Grey?
You loved that. You love that shit.
Am I allowed to say that? That was
of course.
Probably my favorite book, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. But you also loved The 5 Love Languages.
Ooh, okay.
You loved that book.
Uh-huh. See, he knows a lot about me.
And I think you also loved, there's another book that I can't remember the name of it, that you really liked also. But yeah, I'd go probably one of those.
Okay.
I'm answering the questions here for you. What is your...
The couple session, that's a good one.
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food has got to be anything Asian. I just love Asian food.
I would disagree with you.
Why? What do you think it is?
Black seafood linguine.
Seafood pasta. I love seafood.
I know you do.
Okay, I guess Asian was just a current craving.
It's a current craving. Tell me you're not pregnant.
No. I love seafood.
You love seafood, woman.
I love seafood.
Love that.
This is fun. Keep going.
I should be answering. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie.
I'm not answering questions anymore.
Don't
It's gonna
answer
be you.
questions anymore.
It's gonna be you.
My favorite movie. My God, it's so funny because 50 Shades of Grey comes back.
Okay, so let that be it. People getting to know you a little bit, huh? All right, what is your favorite car?
My favorite car. Right now, I'm loving my X7. I really love that car.
You really do.
I do. I really love that car.
What's your favorite song?
I'm not good at this game. My favorite song.
What's your son's favorite song right now?
Oh, New Year's Day by U2.
What's your favorite place to visit?
My favorite place to visit? I think Jamaica.
You should go back.
Yeah.
You should go back there. What is your favorite hobby?
To go for walks by the beach. I don't do it enough, but it calls me to go to the beach and put my feet in the sand.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of my other questions, so I'm going to move on to the next question.
Okay.
To the last question.
Go for it.
If you can give a tip or a nugget to a struggling entrepreneur or to someone struggling in life, period, that they're stuck, overthinking, can't get out of their own way, not in their truth,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
What would I say? Oh my goodness. I think I would say that you're not alone, that everybody, I don't care who they are, experiences it. And there's a way out. I think that's so important, that there's a way out. Ask for help, look for it, search for it. And life can be really beautiful. It's scary, but life can be really beautiful. And I think that that is so, so important to hold on to.
Amen.
Yeah.
Mrs. Climaco, where can people find you? What's your
can people find
website?
me?
What's your IG?
All right. So,
What's going to be the name of your new podcast starting soon in this brand new studio?
all right. So you can find me on IG at Daniela Climaco. Also behaviors.nyc.fl. And my new podcast is going to be called Seasons. Where we talk about all the seasons of life.
That is amazing. I cannot wait for that to start.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to be a guest on your show.
you will be.
Thank you for being a guest on my show.
This was wonderful.
This was wonderful. You're incredible. I love you.
I love you.
I hope you guys enjoyed meeting my wife, getting to know a little bit about her and our family and who we are and how we are. Make sure you follow her. Make sure you stay tuned for her podcast. And make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and we'll see you guys next time.